Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala sayyidil mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahabatihi ajma'in. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana. Innaka antal alimul hakim. Subhanaka la fahma lana illa ma fahmtana. Innaka antal jawwadul kareem. Wa rabbi zidni ilma. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا إن كنتم مؤمنين فإن لم تفعلوا فأذنوا بحرب من الله ورسوله وإن تبتم فلكم رؤوس أموالكم لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون إن كان ذو عسرة فنظرة إلى ميسرة وأن تصدقوا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون واتقوا يوما ترجعون فيه إلى الله ثم توفى كل نفس ما كسبت وهم لا يظلمون صدق الله مولانا العظيم. So continuing with the discourse on riba, on interest, usury, and of course we mentioned it several times, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's system of mercy is that whatever resources that are in the universe, they belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He distributes among His servants, some to a larger degree, some to a smaller degree, as a test and a trial. Those who He gives more to, the trial is, how will they use it? Will they consume it and extravagantly on themselves, or they will consider it an amana and trust in their hands, and they will use equitably, moderately for their own use, and distribute the rest in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those who are in need. Which does what? It binds the rich with the poor. Because the poor, on the other hand, are instructed to be patient with the lot which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. Their test is to be patient with the straitened circumstances that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed for them, which is better for them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows His creation. Some people, they're not going to remain on the path, straight on the path unless they have an abundance of resources. Some people, if they get an abundance of resources, they go, they lose it, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that what's in everyone's best interest in terms of how much rizq and how much sustenance Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants them. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, so when we have people who have less resources, who are living patiently and satisfied with the lot that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. And then we have on the other hand, and they're not looking for handouts from the wealthy. We have on the other hand, the wealthy who understand the wealth is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's, and the wealth, it's a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so therefore, as Nabi and all our pious ancestors, they used moderately for their own use, and they distributed the rest. So what happens is that you get a bind between the rich and the poor. Right, and you have patience on the side of the rich, and you have generosity on the side of the rich. Right. Now the system of interest, the capitalistic, materialistic, animalistic, I should say. They give it nice terms, capitalism. But basically, it's animalism, and it's worse than animalism in the sense that in the jungle, a lion eats, a deer or a heron, as they say, or a goat, or whatever they happen. And the stomach is full and he rests. Another goat passes in front, he's not interested because his stomach is full. Man, his stomach never fills. He has one goat, two goats, his goat, their goat, the whole country's goat, the whole global, he wants the global, And Nabi Sallallahu says, if you give him a whole valley of gold, where's the next one? You can't even use this one, but so we're not satisfied with millions. We want billions, and now they're aspiring to be trillionaires, and we want to gobble up the entire resources. One person, he wants to gobble up the resources of the entire world if it were possible. And now we're seeing that it's becoming more and more possible and probable. And ultimately, when we mentioned many times, when Dajjal comes out, that's exactly what we'll have. One person having the control of all the resources, and that's why he's going to be worshipped, because he has control. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make him a test like that. So now what is the system of interest? It's the opposite of the system of rahmah. So I'm just going to give you a small example. And then we'll expand on this, inshallah. Allah gives me in the world, respite. So let's look at the system of, the equitable system and then the unequitable system. So the equitable system and the system which Allah has engineered is that I have a small capital, I have a medium capital, I have a large, whatever I have in capital, I invest that in business, okay? Which is generally how people used to live. Whether it's the business of their own farm, it might be a business of a little shop, it might be a business of craftsmanship or whatever the case may be. So I'll invest that money, and investing that money, the money goes into the market, it circulates. Money is like blood in the society. When blood is flowing, what happens? You have a healthy body. When blood gets clogged up into one area, suppose the liver, says one day, you know what, the blood is flowing and everything's fine, but suppose the blood stops running. So I better hold up a lot of blood here so that, in case of a contingency, I'll be okay. So what's going to happen to that liver? It's going to destroy itself, not only self-destruction, it's going to ruin the whole system and throughout the whole body. Okay, so what happens is, so the small person, the medium person, whatever his resources are, he invests that and he puts it into the market. He also requires people, so he hires people. Those people are earning, right? And they're earning, they're also spending in the market. So the blood is flowing in the body, money is flowing in the economic body of mankind, and everybody's flourishing. You say, you know what, but that's risky. Maybe I'm going to gain, maybe I'm going to lose. So why don't I take that $500,000 or $1 million or $10,000, whatever it is, put it in the bank, right? And earn my 10%, 5% or 3%, whatever it is, in interest, guaranteed, right? No worries. I'll go on vacation in Florida, and So now what happens? Takes his money, puts it in the bank. The bank, that we'll get into that also. These banks are nothing more than, decorated vampires. And we all know that, and everybody knows that. But somehow the vampire's been given cosmetic look to be, the mercy for mankind. So now we take that money out. What happens is, I close my business. So also my 10, 20, 50, 100, 10,000 employees out of work. Well, that's tough luck. But me. Okay, but I didn't understand that them being out of work also means that their money that they were spending in the market is also not there. So the whole market, starts to decline. And now since I, took that decision, so my employees are going to be very happy with me and make good dua for me. Allah give him barakat and give him khair. They're going to say, oh Allah, destroy this fellow and his bank and it. So, and it goes on and on. It's a vicious cycle. So it affects everybody. Therefore, we talked about yesterday, Imam Malik radiallahu anhu saying that, I didn't see in the Quran there's a war declared from Allah and His Rasul on anyone except, or any group of individuals except the people who are involved in interest. Why? Because it has such a far-reaching impact. It impacts the whole world has sunk. And everywhere you go, the economic situation is improving or it is deteriorating. Tell me. Inflation is on the uprise or down. We've got universities all over the world studying economics and going into the details and looking into the intricacies. You would have thought that by now they would have solved the problems, that we should be living in a more equitable society, in a more economically healthy society. Nothing could be farther from the truth. And then when push comes to shove, as they say, and the whole thing collapses like we saw in 2007 and 8, right? Who got hurt by that? All the houses that went under and left all these people on the streets homeless, right next to the homeless people are the millionaires and trillionaires and billionaires who got bailed out from the public money, by the way. They didn't lose anything. You and I and the common guy on the street, he's the one that lost everything. And it goes on and on and on and on. So the detriment of that snowballs and a vicious cycle continues globally. So the entire globe suffers. Somebody locks up his room, and gets drunk. Okay, that's a khiyanat, on his own, being. Between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has disrespected and he has, done a criminal act against himself. But that's in the confines of his room. Next day he wakes up, he goes and carries on. The interest that has an impact globally. Therefore, due to the severity and the scope of the impact, the severity of the crime, and hence the severity of the punishment. So inshallah we'll continue, because we need to understand more about interest and what it entails, and what we can do about it, inshallah, and we'll continue that bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Subhanaka wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.